All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining for another one of these midweek ones. I hope you guys are having a good week here so far. And so for these midweek ones, we just go for 1 hour or so, and I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. You can also get that with the link in the description there. And so yeah, just happy that so many of you are able to join here. So I see Kraken, Lancelot, Danny, Marco, and Vishal, Nicholas, Fook, Raphael, and Luke. Thank you all so much for stopping by. So, all right, let's get into the first question here. So Kraken says, this is weird, Wednesday night Q&A. Yep, we did it, I think, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. And yeah, people seem to really enjoy it, and so I think I'm going to try and move to 2 a week here, have a kind of a middle of the week one here, and yeah, and let me see. So Lancelot says, good evening to you as well, and Danny says, hello, today was my last day of my junior year of high school, and I missed it due to me getting a stomach bug the night before. Rare spots, unmodified EG Civic Coupe, a Toyota Tercel Coupe, and I'm still looking for a car. Hopefully I'll find one that suits my needs soon. Our Traverse is closing in on 41,000 miles and our Bolt is nearing 75. Well, sorry you missed your last day of school there, but I guess just an early uncomfortable start to the summer for you there. And it's crazy that school's ending that late. Around here, people were done like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago now or something like that, maybe 2. But yeah, I hope you enjoy your summer here and great spots too. Lancelot says his spots so far this week are a white AMG SL63 and a matte black Audi RS7. Very nice. Marco says, hey, Matt, hope you and your family are doing well. I just had to swap the camshaft position sensor and the solenoid on the Subi. She's running a lot better, was giving me hesitation around boost. Interesting. I think, is that a common issue? I feel like I've heard about that, like that being something people have had to do before. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to fix it and figure it out yourself. That's got to be satisfying to fix something, especially on a car, and figure it out on your own. So kudos to you for that. He also says, going to keep in contact with my tuner, going to drive her for a few days, but she's running a whole lot better. She's an interesting character, to say the least. I bet. Yeah, turbo Subarus are so much fun, and yeah, I still miss mine a good bit. And let me see. Vishal says, what's up, Matt? Most interesting spot that, so far this week was a final gen white 2-door Toyota Tercel. Wow, double Tercel sighting, Danny and Vishal. Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't seen a Tercel in a while myself, so that's awesome that some of them are still kicking out there. And Nicholas loves Tercels. I didn't expect the Tercels to be the first topic of the night here. That's funny, but very cool. And let me see. Fook says, I missed the live on Sunday, so I didn't know we were doing this today. Yeah, I don't think I even said in Sunday's stream that we were doing this. That's my bad. But yeah, I think from here on out, I'm going to have every Wednesday evening, I think, free to do these. So count on this as long as everyone keeps wanting to do them. Gonna count on doing this every Wednesday and then Sunday. The Friday one was a fun thing to try there, but I think Friday and then Sunday is just a little too close together. So, and also this Friday I'm not available anyway. But so I think we'll stick with Wednesdays for the foreseeable future here. And let me see. Nicholas says, all right, stream for the ride home. Nice. So that's great. And I guess I've never done that before. Does YouTube let you stream like while you're driving? Is it just like audio, kind of like anything else? I know YouTube Premium, I think, lets you do just audio only, right? But I don't know if they let you do that for streaming. That's really cool. I've never tried. So happy to be your audio companion here for the ride home. And enjoy the drive too. Summer night drives are some of my favorite. Man, let me see. Raphael, yeah, says hi too. Lance Watts says, I can't remember the last time I saw a Tercel here in Billings. Yeah, same here. It's been a long time. Luke says, only the real ones here for Wednesday. Everyone's busy, so I appreciate, whoever can show up. And but I know there's so many great people, I'm sure, that aren't able to show up on Wednesdays that are, also the people that love watching on Sundays too. So, and the great thing is these are always videos on demand, so anyone who misses can always join in too. And let me see. Lance Wath, I'm not understanding the message there. He's an astral projection. I'm not even sure what that means. But let me see. Danny says, one of my neighbors owns a 2002 Dodge Dakota V8 with a stick shift. It's his work truck. The Tercel I saw was green. Nice. I actually want to do a Dakota review. There is someone who's offered me a Dakota RT, which is super cool. It's just a matter of me getting time in my schedule, because that person, they're only available on weekends, and weekends are usually blocked off for family stuff and fun stuff. So it's kind of a little bit of a tricky catch-22 there, but I'm hoping to find, sometime this summer, a Saturday or Sunday to meet up and review that, because I think that would actually get a good amount of views. A RT Dakota be super cool. So stay tuned, hopefully someday, for a review of one of those. And Cam, thanks for stopping by, and Tion. And Cam says, no idea you're going live until I just saw your Instagram story. Well, thanks for following on Instagram. That's definitely, one of the good ways to stay up to date on everything. But yeah, I didn't say it on Sunday. Yeah, so my bad about not giving everyone a heads up there. But yeah, that's also why, if you don't get annoyed by notifications on YouTube are also good, because I do try and schedule these so they, or at least up like an hour and a half beforehand, so people know that they're, that they're coming. But I totally get, notification overload being a thing, so no pressure there. But Antonio says, what's going on, Matt? Happy hump day, everyone. Weird car I saw was a Fisker. Nice. Yeah, that's I always commend people for their bravery, I guess, is the positive way to spin that. I'm driving a Fisker. And thanks for stopping by, Antonio. Hope you're doing well. And Tion said the new video is awesome. Yeah, I just posted the Polestar video, and yeah, that is going to be one that probably won't get very many views, but I'm glad you liked it. And it sounds like so far people that watched it have enjoyed it. I did 2 rants in that video of the things that annoyed me about it. And I think I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts here in real time. If you watched the Polestar review, no pressure, I know it just came out a few hours ago, but if you did, you'll see there was 2 rants that I did. One was about the window switches, because it only has 2 of them, and the other one was about the key fob. And I know some people say they enjoy my rants. I'm sure many people are annoyed by them as well. But to do something different for a YouTube short idea, in the past, I've experimented with acceleration reactions for YouTube shorts. That didn't really do a whole lot. I'm going to try uploading those rants as a standalone YouTube short, because I need to do more short stuff. And someone actually did a really good comparison. They're saying that shorts are kind of like a dating app or something, where it's like a short introduces you to a new creator, and then that's the gateway to saying, okay, well, they have an attractive profile with like a short or something, and then that can connect to the channel and turn them into someone who says, I want to know more about this person. I want to get to know them. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me of like, okay, like I really do need to do more of that short form stuff, because so many people are on there that just aren't watching long videos yet, but they might if they enjoy my rants and stuff like that. So I think I'm going to post one as a short tomorrow, and then the other one over the weekend here. And so I'm curious how those do, but I'm curious what you guys think about that too before I even post them here. If you think, I don't know, because I don't watch shorts, so I have no clue what automotive content is out there, but I see everyone does the same stuff, where every car short or TikTok is, showing quirks and features, doing a quick walk around kind of thing. It's all kind of the same, and I could do that, but I have a lot of great buddies who do really good jobs doing that. And instead of just being another person pointing out how many cup holders a car has, or the 3 cool features on this thing or whatever, I think I do rants better than a lot of others. Most others don't lay into cars as much as I do, in my opinion. And I think that kind of sets me apart, and is something that could be fun for a short, because I know even just in the, other short form content, vertical stuff that I see, whether it's political stuff or, funny parenting stuff or whatever, like a lot of them are like ranty kind of things, or outrage bait kind of stuff. And I think, saying this Polestar is $90,000 and only has 2 window switches is a good, kind of like what, sensational kind of thing. So I hope that maybe that'll be a good idea. We'll see what happens, but I'll report back on Sunday how the first one does, at least. But any thoughts you guys have. Maybe I'll scroll down here real quick, see if anyone has any thoughts here before I move on to other topics here. And let me see. So I see people excited about the Dakota review. Marcus said quirks and features, shots fired. I don't know if does Doug even do short stuff. I don't think he actually does. So, but it's a popular thing, and I mean he made it popular, and for good reason. It's fun, bar trivia to know all the quirks of cars and stuff. And I see Jorge saying rants for sure in the shorts. Okay, I'm glad. I see Wheatman says the same, and give me a fob, please. I know, I'm right there with you. Yeah, so okay, I appreciate the feedback, everyone. And yeah, Vishal and Zachary says if you can get any additional content out of the videos, go for it. Yeah, and I think for a while I was worried about it hurting the algorithm and hurting the channel, because for a while there, shorts did hurt your watch time, and watch time is the name of the game. The longer that someone is watching a video and watching successive videos on the channel, that's YouTube gold. And so, whenever you have someone watch a 15-second video, that sends a bad signal, or they watch 15 seconds of a video, it's not what you want. And so that's kind of always been one of the things that's discouraged me from doing the short form stuff. But now it seems like YouTube has kind of separated the algorithms a little bit and made it so that hopefully shorts don't hurt. And I think just YouTube's going so deep into the shorts, and it's here to stay. And instead of trying to ignore the elephant in the room, I got to try and lean into it in my own way. And, I don't have a ton of rants, all the time. So I don't know how consistent I'll be with it, but I can always go back into my back catalog and rants, of all the rants that I've done on other reviews, and pull those out of the archives if need be as well. But yeah, I think maximizing the content for sure. Like you're right, it's definitely the way to do it, I think, these days. So I may even reopen my TikTok account. We'll see, because I think I don't know if if I closed it or if it's just sitting dormant, but I did have a very brief span on TikTok, but it was just re-uploading basically reels that I had on Instagram. So, but I may start doing that, because I do know some of my buddies that do make some actual decent money on TikToks. So there may be something there too. So we'll see. But anyway, thanks so much for the feedback, everyone. I appreciate that. I see Raphael says YouTube really pushes the shorts, but they don't really interest me. And I totally get that. And there's, I still don't watch YouTube shorts, so I don't expect any of you to as well. But, again, trying to get new viewers, trying to get, people who, maybe are out of the loop, that maybe did used to watch me 10 years ago and now are just watching shorts exclusively. And maybe I pop up and they're like, oh, I forgot about this guy. I'm actually looking for a car, in a year or something. Maybe, follow along. And those types of things, I think, are what I'm hoping to get out of it as well. But I see Mark also says, at least on shorts, you can just relax and be yourself. Rant away, Matt. Or just laugh and mess around with it. It could be a whole new platform approach. Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, is try and have fun with it. Because I think with shorts, you can overcomplicate it and make it, fancier, or make it, really overproduced. But I think these days people really like casual, and so trying to do some of those exclusive things, I think, is something that, if I do even just different things that aren't the usual content, stuff I don't feel like making a whole video about, I can just do a little short. I think, yeah, that's something I got to do more of. And I also, like, for those of you who are members, that's something I want to do too. There's also, you can have member exclusive shorts, and that could be a really easy way of just turning on the phone, literally, filming some random little observation or something and putting that out, for some exclusive content for you guys as well. Because that's been something else that I've still been wanting to, improve too. But so yeah, but I appreciate that. Yeah, that's going to be something I need to keep in mind, though, is to just have fun with it and mess around with shorts instead of taking it seriously, because I'm very analytical and very much easily falling into that trap of trying to make it less fun. So I need to stay fun with it. So I appreciate the reminder, Marco. And Cam says, as a resident Gen Z's doom scroller, shorts is the name of the game. Yeah. And it sounds like YouTube is actually also, they have started to say that basically shorts are starting to pay better. It used to be like it didn't pay anything, and it still hardly pays me much at all. But for the longer ones, people are doing the 1 to 2, 3 minute shorts. That's where you can actually make, I don't know if I'd call it respectable money, but I'd say non-insulting money at that point, versus, right now, the amount of views and the money you get for those views is just a slap in the face. But, for the longer stuff, it actually does seem to be better. And Zachary says, I'm on TikTok all the time, and 90% of the car content I see is surface level tour with ADHD. That's kind of what I've observed as well. So hopefully my stuff will be a breath of fresh air. And even if it annoys people, that also clearly is good these days, as well as with, just, again, triggering people and the engagement that brings. I'm not trying to trigger people, but if my rants of me just, complaining about a car feature, even if people don't like it, hopefully that'll still work in my favor. We'll see. And I see T-Soul Beat says it's all about having fun at the end of the day. We are only here on Earth for a limited time. Absolutely. Definitely agree. All right. Well, thanks so much for the feedback, everyone. And I'll get back to the other questions. Also, Lancelot, sorry I missed it. Thanks so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate the generosity, and happy to see, some new names there, as well as some familiar ones, I think, able to get those. So thanks so much. I really appreciate that. Let me see. So where were we here? Let me get a drink here. I don't know if you guys are still in this heat wave or not, but it still is like 89 or something today, and it's a little hot here in my office. So I see James says cheers, and Cam says saw purple GT3 today very randomly. Wow, that's a nice spot. Oh man, I love all the paint to sample GT3s. Always are so beautiful. And Luke says, I hope Ford doesn't get carried away with the Lobo trim. I would cringe at a Lobo Escape, Explorer, etc. Yeah, I don't know what's worse, if they do Lobos or STs. I mean, I'm all for performance stuff as long as it's legitimately improved, and I think with the F-150, it's a little debatable, but with the Maverick, it's actually, I think, a nice improvement. I'm hoping to review one and try it out for myself, but I'm excited about Maverick Lobo, and if done well, I mean, Escape, it seems like Escape, they are like embarrassed to even like give that thing any screen time. I mean, it's like there's no promotion, there's been no investment, no development since the refresh that happened, I think, in 2022 or 2023. And it sounds like Escape's on its way out. It sounds like they're not doing anything new after that, which is crazy. They would abandon, basically the top selling segment, outside of trucks. So I don't know what Ford's doing with Escape, but I wouldn't expect the Lobo Escape. Explorer, I think they have that covered with ST, so I don't think they would go that way unless the other possibility is if they want to abandon ST, they could drop the ST and make that Lobo instead in the future. But I don't think both would coexist. I could be wrong. But yeah, we'll see how they end up playing that. And Cam says he's been out of school since May 30th. Yeah, I think it's most people. So yeah, maybe Danny's in a different kind of school district there. And TFI says in Canada, school ends at the end of June and starts again after Labor Day. Yeah, that's okay. So maybe it's Canada then, because so a little bit later there. Yeah, we have a longer summer here in America. So no wonder Canadians are generally probably a little smarter, because they get an extra month of school in there that everyone around here is already cooking at the beach, while Canadians are still in school. So that's probably helpful for you guys. Luke says, I used to get out of school somewhere between June 7th and 16th, somewhere in that time frame. Nice. Yeah, that was always around the time. I think for me, it was always like first week in June is usually when I was out. And Zachary says he'll join the Tercel Club. I'd love to review one. I've never driven a Tercel, but yeah, sounds like that's a name that could maybe come back, considering the popularity here, judging by tonight. And Vishal says living away from the Rust Belt definitely helps, and seeing the oldies like that, I bet. Yeah, because stuff actually survives. It must be nice. Around here, there's no hope for that. And Wheatman says, good evening, Matt, and all the auto enthusiasts. Thanks so much for stopping by, Wheatman. And Marco says, yeah, mechanic wanted to charge me $600 in labor for the Subaru fix. Crazy work, so I decided to do it myself, and it was surprisingly easy. Just love some stuff, or list some stuff around in Bingo. She's on E85, pushing 350 wheel horsepower. Nice. Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, there's so many great videos. I mean, my friend, I'm thankful to say Chris Fix, he does fantastic stuff. And I think you watch one of his videos, they're so detailed, so well done. That gives you a ton of confidence to be able to do whatever you need to do, and he's covered basically everything at this point. And so yeah, it's great. one of the good perks of the internet is getting info and getting all that especially visual info and not just some repair manual, but actual like step-by-step stuff and videos is so nice. And Chad's excited about the surprise chat. Yeah, just figured we'll start doing these midweek ones. We did one a couple weeks ago and it did really well, and gonna keep on doing them. So expect Wednesday live streams here in addition to the Sunday ones going forward. And Jorge says, is the move from an ND2 to an Amira and stay married, or an Elise and get divorced? I haven't driven a Mira, so I don't know. So it's I love Elise. I mean, I know obviously you're probably joking there but if it's going to cause relationship strife, I mean, I'm firmly in the camp of happy wife, happy life. So I mean, no, but in reality, like to me, ND2 is really good, like really, really good. And going from ND2 to Amira or Elise, what I know about Amira, and I have driven an Elise a long time ago. I really want to review one someday because I actually have never reviewed one, but I've driven one once when I was a detailer, and then I rode in one several times back in the day. There was a friend that had one, and so I did a bunch of rides in an Elise. They're fantastic cars. I love Elise a lot. I don't know what they're going for these days, but I feel like that should be same kind of money to ND2 unless they've jumped up in price a bunch. Because I know you used to be able to get a nice Elise for like 30 grand. So unless it's just that your significant other doesn't want to, or your spouse doesn't want to, deal with like the tight space of an Elise or something. But price wise, I feel like that would be a fairly lateral move. I don't know, but maybe I'm out of the loop. But either way, Elise is certainly next level because you have, the manual steering. It's, even lighter, I believe. The mid-engine thing is really cool. And Elise is magical. And it is better than ND2, but is it twice the fun? I don't think so personally. Again, it's been so long, so I really need to do a better, drive to really give you a good bit of advice. But from what I know so far and how I feel currently, I would say if sticking with ND2, keeps things nice and kosher, or if even going to Amira, I'm sure Amira's good fun too. The other thing I'll say, Amira seems like there's a few little quirks to it. Actually, another fellow Pittsburgh YouTuber, Car Guy 11, actually just bought an Amira. You can check out his channel. He does really good little updates on it, and he bought a lightly used Amira. Had a few little fit and finish things. Thankfully, it was still under warranty, so it's all getting fixed. But it was just a little iffy. And I mean, it's a hand-built British car. Hopefully, you know that going into it. It's probably not going to be quite as tight as a Miata. But if that doesn't bother you, Amira would be probably a really nice kind of compromise to stay married, have a Lotus, have something that's a step up for sure from ND2, without going full crazy. But yeah, Elise is really good. I often forget about Elise for some reason, just because I never see them on the road around here anymore. And no one really talks about them, at least that I see. I don't see anyone do reviews on them. I don't see anybody doing anything. And so, but yeah, that reminds me. I really want to review an Elise someday. But yeah, hopefully that helps you a little bit with all my rambling. Either way, though, you're not in a bad position. You stick with an ND2, still very good life. Sticking with an Amira, really good life. And if you want to stay married and one of those cars achieves that, I'd say either one, you're still in a good spot there. And let me see. Confirmation, thank you so much for the first super chat of the night. He says, hi, Matt. What is an obscure working class family car that you would want to drive? For me, it's the Opel Kadett Daewoo-based 1990 Pontiac Le Mans. Man, yeah, I've that's another car I've basically forgotten about. I mean, if we're talking, I guess obscure disqualifies a lot of stuff, because I would say, like Ford Fusion's really great. I mean, all the mainstream family sedans are actually pretty good, in my opinion. I'd be, completely content driving any of them, honestly, just as a family transportation kind of thing. But as far as obscure goes, trying to think what obscure one I would go for. Because working class family, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what kind of budget that provides, but something cheaper. I mean, I'm always in the new car mindset. So for me, it'd just be like a Launcher N or something like that, Civic Si. But if we're talking about weird, quirky, older stuff, I mean, for me, it probably would be, like a, 4-door Subaru Impreza 2.5 RS, something like that. Or I don't know. I'd have to really like sit down and think about. This is one of those ones that's tough. I mean, I always loved the smaller Saturn sedans for talking obscure stuff. So maybe that could be one that I've always kind of admired. And my dad actually had a Saturn. What do they call the I can't remember what they called the smallest little sedan that they had. But he had one of those as a rental car once, and I was like so excited about riding in that thing back in the day as a kid. I don't know. I always had a soft spot for Saturn for some reason. So it'd probably be a Saturn if we're talking quirky. SL1, maybe that's what it was, because SC1 was the coupe, right? So probably SL1 would have been the sedan. And this was before the days of all the other GM or all the, further GM stuff, where it got watered down. This is when they were still kind of quirky on their own, with the plastic body panels and stuff. And yeah, I think so. It must have been SL1. So yeah, I've always loved those Saturns. I'd love to review a clean one of those too, but I feel like at least around here they are extremely rare. But I mean, they had Honda engines in them and stuff. Saturn Ion was a little bit newer. Ions are cool though too. The Redline version is basically Cobalt SS, and really cool car too. And I see Chad, thanks for the super chat. He says the Mercury Marauder. That would be an awesome one for sure. Honestly, even Crown Vics. The Marauder is even better because then people probably won't think you're a cop. Although I'm sure I don't think anyone actually uses Crown Vics anymore. So hopefully anyone who sees a Crown Vic now isn't worried about it being a police officer. But yeah, I think Crown Vics were always really cool too. And so that'd be a fun one. Trying to think what other ones. This is a fun little rabbit hole to go down, but yeah, those are probably the top ones off the top of my head. I don't know why. Like I feel like there was more charm with the imperfection of some of the American stuff there of like, the 90s. The Pontiac Bonnevilles with the cheese grater styling with the doors and stuff. With the supercharged 3800 V6s and all that you had in some of those. Some really cool stuff. So there's a bunch of those I think could be fun. And I see Vishal says, I remembered another spot. Speaking of old quirky GM cars, a Pontiac G5 GT. Nice. Yeah, so the G5, that was the one that was basically a Chevy Cavalier, right? I think is what that was. And also there was the Pontiac Sunfire. I think there was a Ford version of that. That was a fun kind of sportier way to dress up a Cavalier. And I see confirmation also says the Eagle Premier and Eagle Vision. Yeah, those are funny. I never liked the nose though on a lot of those Eagles. Even the Eagle Talon, to me, the nose is a little odd. But yeah, I just commend the quirkiness and the more bold and daring styling. And I see TFI says, dude, Saturn was the shiz. We used to have a Saturn and Saab combo dealership about 3 blocks away from a Subaru Suzuki combo dealership. Wow, those are fun, and I guess kind of makes sense with the Saturn and Saab if it was post merger there with Saab, but the Subaru and Suzuki is an interesting one. But yeah, that was my quirky spot of the week. A couple of days ago, I saw a Saab 9.3 convertible for like the last generation of them in like the sea blue, like tealy sea blue kind of color that they came in with the top down just on a summer night here driving around, some guy enjoying it. And that was like, it was so clean. It was like, looked like it was brand new. I think he actually lives in my in-laws neighborhood, because every once in a while there was some guy I bumped into in the neighborhood at one point a while back that was like, I have an old Saab and it's great and I baby it and it's only got like a 3,000 miles on it or something. I think it was that guy, but I'm not sure. But so that was my odd spot of the week here. Let me see. And yeah, oh, Danny says the G5 was the Cobalt. Okay, so this was post Cavalier, so Cobalt. Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for the correction. And I see Vishal also said the same. And let me see. Confirmation says Suzuki Esteem Wagon. Yeah, that's another one that I feel like they must not have sold very many of those because I feel like those have essentially disappeared. And Suzuki Verona, yeah, and like the Suzuki Reno. Someone in Sunday's live stream was saying they had a Reno because we were talking about everyone's car histories in the Sunday live stream. And someone actually had a Suzuki Reno and said it was completely fine. And I was like, "You're the first person I've ever talked to who actually ever owned one of those." That's another car. It's very easily forgotten. And let me see. TFI says we got to review that Saab. I would love to. He does, I think, know what I do. I think that kind of came up. He was he was more interested in talking about his Saab than talking about anything I did. But if he ever offers it, I absolutely will review that car. That would be so fun. And Dave says Isuzu iMark suspension tuned by Lotus. Yeah, was that the cool coupe? There was a bunch of those cool Isuzus. There was the Isuzu, well, even the Storm, I think was a little less sporty, but the Storm was so cool. Yeah, the iMark was, there was also, wasn't there one other one too that was like maybe earlier in the 80s that was really wild? I mean, like Subaru XT6, they had way back when, and then the turbo version. There's so many cool cars. I am happy you read a Subaru SVX. That was always like a bucket list car to drive. I was able to finally review, about a year and a half ago, I think. That was really cool to kind of cross that one off my list. But I love all those quirky old things. And confirmation says the Suzuki Forenzo was the old Top Gear star in a reasonably priced car. Yeah, you're right. And yeah, and that's another car though. I don't see any of those anywhere anymore. And confirmation says the Impulse. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, the Impulse was the cool coupe. Nice. Yeah. So yeah, there is so many. It's incredible how Isuzu fell, from being like a real leader that I would argue was almost up there with like Mitsubishi. I mean, they've fallen off too, but like, it's crazy that Isuzu just kind of went so soft. I mean, right up to the very end, like the Isuzu Axiom, I thought that thing was the coolest thing when that thing showed up in Spy Kids. If any of you watched Spy Kids when that first came out, I was a young, impressionable kid when that movie came out. And I was like, holy crap, that's the coolest SUV I've ever seen. And that was in Isuzu. And then, the Via Cross, all these cool things. Isuzu did not deserve failure in America. They absolutely deserve the world. And kudos to whoever was running the ship at that point in time for Isuzu, because I'd like to buy that guy a beer. I mean, the bravery to do all that stuff. Obviously, it was a different time, but yeah. And also, Vishal says the Trooper was cool. Absolutely was. I mean, so many. I could do. Yeah, I'd love to review like basically every one of those old cool Isuzus. It'd be so fun. Just have the Isuzu month on the channel. But it's impossible to find that stuff. I would love if anyone has an Isuzu or knows anyone who does, or anyone that's in a group or something. I don't even know if there is an Isuzu club, but if there is, send them my way. If there's anyone in with reasonable driving distance, hit me up. We got to do some Isuzu reviews. Let me see. Marco says the Chevy SS is the perfect sleeper. That is another great one. I don't know if that qualifies as far as family working wages, because I feel like those are still kind of a little pricey maybe, but I love this Chevy SS. So good. Another car that definitely did not get the recognition it deserved, did not get the praise. I mean, I praised it as much as I could, but man, just never, did as well as it should have. Same thing with the Pontiac G8 GT. And Danny said, I saw Suzuki Aereo SX on Monday, forgotten hatchback of the 2000s. Yeah, actually, and there's one of my daughter's friends' parents. They actually have the SX4. Unfortunately, it's not the cool manual one. It's an automatic. But, and he says it's been treating them really well. They still really love it, and they just don't want to get rid of it, even though they have 2 kids now. And that little SX4, sometimes they drive around, but it's treating them really well. They also have a Subaru Ascent for when they actually need some more space. But it's like if not for them, I would never see an SX4 around even anymore. And that's another really good little car. Had all-wheel drive, was a great competitor to the Imprezas and all that. Yeah, it's a shame Suzuki didn't do better as well. I see TFI says a lot of GM World cars were badged as Suzukis were rebadged as Pontiacs in Canada. Oh, that's cool. I don't think I knew that. That's fun. I'll have to. Yeah, I'd love to see like what some of those looked like or what they were even called because that I think that's news to me, unless I've just forgotten that factoid along the way. But I don't remember ever hearing that. That's cool. Thanks for the info. And Vishal says the Zuzu Trooper was a cool SUV. I covered that. And Jorge, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, "How do you gift memberships?" I believe there is. I think if you hit the which button is it? I thought it was under the super chat button. Maybe not. Stand by. um, I don't actually know because I've never actually done it myself. If anyone who is like Lanswath who does do the regular gifting, if you know how, please please help because I don't remember. I thought it was under the supers, but I guess it's not. So yeah, maybe there's an option that I just don't have on my own thing here. And confirmation, thank you so much for a super chat again. He says, oddly badge engineered pickup truck death match of the Suzuki i290/370 versus Mitsubishi Raider versus Suzuki Equator versus Mazda B Series. Yeah, and they all were they all basically the same thing at one point? And well, because was Mitsubishi Raider, that one was that was the Dodge, right? So we're talking the different ones. Because Suzuki Equator was the Nissan, the Mitsubishi was the Dodge, Mazda B Series was that when it was the Ranger? Because before it was Mazda was making them for Ford, but I think by that point Ford was making them for Mazda, right? If I have that straight, I don't remember what the Zuzu one was based on. Mazda was Ranger, okay, yeah. So yeah, I think the Isuzu is just the only other one. Isuzu's Colorado. That's it. Okay, yeah. How? I guess I should. I shouldn't expect myself to remember that, but yes, the Isuzu was the Colorado. You're right. That's and I saw one of those a couple of months ago. The Isuzu Colorado, and that must have been like right before Isuzu left. That must have been like the very last year or two of that. That's yeah, so many. And I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen that kind of stuff announced yet for more of that, especially now. Again, if we're going to have some price crunching with tariffs and again, everyone's trying to conserve money with the switch to electrification and everything. There should be way more badge engineering. And there's talks that we are kind of going into a second malaise era here, kind of like we did exactly. It's like history repeating itself with the 60s being the muscle era and then the 70s kind of fizzling out. Then you had kind of the malaise of the 70s and the 80s in a way. People are saying we're going to kind of get back to that. So I don't know, but maybe it's just the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia, but I would be excited to kind of see some more badge engineering stuff. I think that, one of the closest things we have to that is this extensive partnership with Toyota and Subaru for the EVs of, the badge engineering on all, the Solterra and now the Trail Seeker. And I think it's going to continue as well. So I think that's going to be our closest, thing like that these days. But I think we're going to see a lot more of that. It's just going to get too expensive for some of these companies. They're going to have to conserve and join forces. And I also hope we see actually, Nissan and Honda work together at some point and do, something like that as well, because it makes sense. Have Honda get something off the Armada platform. Have all these other bigger things have, a Honda actual pickup truck based on Frontier. I mean, and again, it could just be badge engineering. I mean, it worked back then. It'll work now too, I think. So you want to slap a Honda badge on an Armada and, I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that. I know everyone has their standards for how it must drive and this, that, and the other. But if you're just trying to fill a dealership and a showroom with stuff, it doesn't hurt to offer it, versus it going to another brand. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's fun to talk about though. See, Lancelot, thanks for the help there. So it's the same button as super chat. So okay, so it's just that I don't have that option. All right, so I wasn't crazy. And I appreciate Truck and Car Guy also with the info there. And I see Michelle says Suzuki Kazashi was another underrated sedan. You're right. And let me see, I missed some of the other Isuzu comments here. Confirmation says the Axiom was cool. Then they went to the Ascender and the I-90 or I-290. Yeah. Yeah, the Ascender was disappointing for sure. Although that's another quirky car. I saw a Saab 97X, which was the Trailblazer as well. That was when, Trailblazer was going to Isuzu, it was going to Saab. And I actually knew someone that had the Saab version and actually really liked it. But just, it was wild times, I'm telling you what. And Chad says, today's kids will never get to experience random eco cars having coupe and convertible options. I know that is sad that it's, outside of Miata, that is really a luxury thing these days. I mean, coupes, I guess, there's, even all those are all going to be 30 grand, even the BRZs and stuff. What is the cheapest coupe? I don't actually, I'm trying to think of who makes the cheapest coupe. I mean, because like Prelude's coming back, but that's going to probably be expensive. And yeah, there's probably, is it Miata? I don't know. There's probably something I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but yeah, it is sad for sure. And I mean, literally, like, when a lot of us were growing up, like at least me, sport compact era, the early 2000s, when I was a teenager, I mean, it was like coupes everywhere. Everyone had them. They were very popular. They were cool, and it was everyone wanted one. It was just great. Let me see. Blackbird's asking if I'm going to review the Batman Tumbler. That would be a very fun, quirky car. I would love to review a Tumbler. That's a car I'd fly across the country to review if I had the opportunity, I think. Because, man, that would be a bucket list item to review a Tumbler. I've heard they are really hard to drive. And I think actually, because who was I? There was someone else. I feel like I was hearing talk about this recently. I can't remember who it was, but I know, I mean, actually, you know what it was? Ben Collins, it wasn't recently, but he found my video of The Dark Knight Rises. This was probably, I think this was 2 years ago, actually, of me filming The Dark Knight Rises. And apparently Ben Collins was in one of the tumblers driving one of Bane's tumblers or whatever. And he was talking in like a podcast or something. He's like, yeah, I found this guy's video and it's really cool. And then he was, saying how it was kind of tricky to drive those things. And I think Jay Leno also drove one at one point a while back. But it's obviously very hard, very unwieldy. But man, I would totally, if I ever won like, crazy like jackpot, like Powerball, Mega Millions, something like that, I would totally buy a tumbler. I don't know how often I would drive it, but just like opening up my garage and seeing one of those things. Oh man. And every once in a while I do see one actually pop up on eBay that's a pretty decent replica. But man, if I had the money, even just buying one of the actual original ones, I think there was one that actually was up for sale a couple of years ago that was one of the actual screen used ones. And that's like a dream car for me too. Like beyond even exotic stuff. I mean, the amount of crazy looks you would get in that thing. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see because you'd be in this, bunker of a car. But man, that would be so fun. Because Batman's still my favorite superhero, so that would be the ultimate, one of the ultimate dream cars. I would love to review that. And if anyone knows anyone who has a Tumbler or a Tumbler replica, hit me up. Love to do that. And TFI is laughing about the Isuzu Owners Club and which retirement home we're going to hit up. Maybe that's where they're all hanging out at, retirement homes or something. I don't know. I think there are a lot of like people my age though who are, and I'm sure many of you guys, we're all kind of, I think a lot of us the same age, who do fondly look back on that stuff that was really cool and made an impression on us as kids. So there are some younger people I think that actually do have them, but maybe they're a very rare breed. But let me see. Matthew says the Saab 9000s are pretty quick back in the day. Yeah, they were. I mean, Saab was really great performance. Those turbo ones. I mean, they, especially in a time when there wasn't a ton of horsepower back then with a lot of those things. They were legitimate sports sedans. And Danny says in Canada the Pontiac G5 was actually called the Pursuit. Interesting. Yeah, see, I've never heard of a Pontiac Pursuit, but that actually rolls off the tongue very nicely. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Danny. Um, and let me see here. So I'm gonna go back just so I don't get too far behind in the member questions. I don't want to skip over those, but I'm loving the conversation here. And but I don't want to make sure. I want to make sure we don't leave any others behind here. So where were we here? Get another water break here. And since we are a little bit behind, I'm going to skip non-member questions just for now. If we get caught up towards the end, I feel free to re-ask your question, but I just want to make sure we don't get too far behind here. So let me see. Raphael says, Matt, we're at halfway point for the year. Which car have you enjoyed reviewing the most so far? Oh man, it's all such a blur. I have to like go back and look at my list of stuff that I reviewed to see because nothing springs to mind immediately. Trying to think here. Yeah, I'm blanking on anyone that really jumps out as being incredible. I mean, I guess personal favorite would be the GR Corolla that I had for a week. I mean, there's nothing new there, but since that's one of my favorite cars on the market, getting to spend a week with that is always a highlight. So that's probably one of the top. Oh, LC 500 convertible. That's probably the favorite. I'm trying to think. Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's all coming back to me. Aston Martin Vantage, easy. Final answer. That's definitely been the best one of the year. I can't believe I forgot that. That should have jumped to mind immediately. Aston Martin Vantage that was amazing. I'm already pestering the fleet company to see if they have any other Astons coming because I believe Aston, the Vantage Roadster, is starting to pop up in press fleets, and so getting that Aston fun with the roof off in the summer or fall would be magical. So fingers crossed. I'm also desperately wanting to try out DB12 and Vanquish. Don't know if I'm going to get that lucky or not. We'll see, but I'm just telling them to send me all the Astons they want. So we'll see. That video did better than I thought. Usually exotics don't do well, but that actually did decent. So it's not a complete waste of time as far as, doing a video on it too. So that's good, even if it is just one I do selfishly. But yeah, that was definitely it. And that we'll see what else comes out the rest of the year, but it's going to be hard to top Vantage for me personally. And you see, Danny says the new Ford Explorer Tremor looks cool, but the price is a no-go for my family. Yeah, they're pricey. I saw that they showed it to us whenever I was on the expedition drive, and it was a long embargo that we held for. And I didn't get the time to do a video on it. I just took some pictures. I should have posted them on Instagram when it debuted, but I just honestly it completely slipped my mind. But it's a cool combo, and I think it'll sell really well for them. And Linda, thanks for stopping by too. And Steve Ski says, I recently saw a Tesla Y with a Mazda badge and a poorly fitted Mazda bra. Wow, that's funny. Especially, I feel like no one does those black bras anymore. They were always so bad for your car too. That's funny. I mean, I guess that person's really terrified of people vandalizing their Tesla. Hopefully that has passed. And people that are driving Teslas, can relax a little bit. Because I mean, no matter how you feel about Tesla and Elon, like being worried about your car getting vandalized is just crappy, and that would suck. So hopefully that has kind of passed, and maybe just a bumper sticker that says Elon sucks so will suffice instead of having to go to the trouble of putting new badges and other weird accessories on your Tesla. Let me see. So Tion says, just picked up a 2004 IS300, super smooth and excited to upgrade it. Nice. That's a great grab. I mean, IS300s are rare these days. So glad you were able to grab one. It's going to be a great car, I'm sure. I mean, it should be super reliable, obviously tons of aftermarket support. And I've heard they're great. I've never reviewed one. If you're near Pittsburgh and you want to have me take it for a spin, send me a message. But yeah, I've always heard really good things about them. And let me see. So I'm going to keep getting caught up on member questions. I see your question, T-Sol. Happy to answer that here once I get caught up. Michelle says, was watching your Corolla FX review earlier. Really seems like a tough proposition. Corolla in general seems hard to justify these days for anything beyond SC trim in both hybrid and gas. Absolutely. Yeah, it's tough because, it's old and there's just better stuff out there, with the competitors. And yeah, it's it's kind of funny, but Toyota, you really do pay a Toyota tax these days. And some cases it's warranted. And if you are absolutely obsessed with reliability and having the best reliability, that is worth it. And I mean, the, lesser depreciation probably means you come out either ahead or you at least break even if you're paying more up front. But I mean, they sell super well, so they don't need to do deals or have more aggressive pricing because, look at Corolla sales numbers. It's phenomenal. They still are right there neck and neck with Civic pretty much, as being best selling in that segment. So, when you got those numbers, why bother? Why hurt your value proposition? If people are happy with it at the price it is, then leave it. And, I guess I shouldn't say value, but, don't hurt your profit margins. If the people are paying that money for them, then that's good for Toyota, I suppose. But, like I've said in all my reviews of all the competitors, most of them I'd say are, better either as far as better value or better performance or better driving or better interior or all the above. But I mean, in a vacuum though, especially if you're a Toyota fan and you want to stick to something that is going to run forever, Corolla is great. And in a vacuum, I actually really enjoy living with it. I've always enjoyed driving Corollas. They're really nice little cars. And especially if I was doing something where I was going to put a ton of miles on a car and I didn't have to worry about it, absolutely, Corolla would be a great choice still. And Camp says, how do you go about meeting up with people to review their car? Do you meet halfway or something? Yeah, it depends. It's, on a case-by-case basis. It's been a long time since I've actually even met up with anyone really to review their cars. Just because, again, I have so many opportunities. And now, especially having another dealer contact with a giant conglomerate that has hundreds of used cars to pick from, there's less of that I need to do, but I still do that, and I'm open to doing that if it's something that's not super far. But typically, I have a whole wait list of stuff, and it's sorted by people that are available on weekdays, which is kind of rare, understandably. But those ones, and then basically it's priority goes people that are available on weekdays that are in the Pittsburgh area. Those are the ones that get the first priority whenever I do happen to have a gap in the schedule and I'm able to do something like that. And then beyond that, then it kind of, I work outwards from a radius. So there's, people that are in Ohio that, I'd like to go out there and it's, only a couple hour drive. Or a lot of times I've met a lot of people in Hershey, PA, whether they are coming from like a lot of people that were coming from like New York City area, people coming from anywhere on the East Coast, Philly and stuff. Hershey's a nice kind of midway. You're in the middle of PA there. I know the roads around there. They're phenomenal roads, good filming spots and stuff. So like, usually that's, I will meet some people halfway. In the past, I've also just come to other people and just, showed up if it's in something where I can bundle multiple reviews. If I can make a weekend out of it. This was more so before I had kids, before I had a kid, it's just a little bit easier to do that where you don't have to worry about, okay, like we have to make sure that the family's all taken care of and all that. But, back in my younger days, that was something I did a lot too, where if I can bundle a few cars over a weekend, and I can find some place to stay that's not too expensive or whatever, then that's been, a nice thing to do too. But yeah, that's kind of the way it is. And I mean, I have people that have offered stuff in Quebec. I have people that offered stuff, all over the world, I'm mostly North America, but, there's all kinds of sweet stuff. There's someone with a Jaguar F-Type SVR waiting for me up in, I think Vancouver. I got a Lexus LFA waiting for me up in Quebec, and also GT3 Touring. I just like, it's hard to just make a drive up to Quebec. It's not actually that far from Pittsburgh. I can get to Toronto in like 4.5 hours, but it's just that, just taking the time because I'm so insanely busy to, do these long trips, is really the tough thing. So, but that's how it works, is just starting with the stuff that's closest, working my way out. Maybe someday I'll finally get all cut up. We'll have to see if I do pivot to doing more used stuff. If no one buys new cars, once tariffs really kick in full blast here, maybe that's something where I will start doing more and finally work through, that backlog. Because there's a bunch of incredible cars that have been offered to me. I'm so thankful. I have so many awesome people that have offered their awesome cars. So, but that's usually how it works. And Chad says, with Lobo reviving interest in street trucks, what would be your favorite reinterpretation of an older model or a new one never done before? I think absolutely what I want to see is a new Dodge Ram SRT10. I think that was probably the ultimate, the Viper engine. You can't beat it. I think that's really the best. So for me, obviously there's no V10. I mean, I guess Dodge is crazy enough. Maybe they'd bring back that motor from the Viper, and put it back into production. I don't know. But I think even, just putting Hellcat motor, it sounds like that's probably coming back too, since, the Hemi has. If you do Hellcat in a slammed Ram instead of the TRX, I think that would be awesome and would be worthy of, some kind of, I don't know if they call it SRT10, but, even just Ram Hellcat. Be awesome and be a nice successor to SRT10. And so I think that's probably the one I'm hoping for the most. And it sounds like with, Dodge getting back into the NASCAR truck racing and all this, that, that'll be something that I'm assuming it makes sense to do a street truck again. Tim Kaniskis has kind of hinted at that pretty strongly, I'd say. So, that's the one I think we actually will get, and also I think the one I'm looking forward to the most. I'd also love to see a GMC Cyclone again. Would be another fun one if everyone's going to jump on the street truck bandwagon. But it seems like GM has no interest in doing, any kind of gas powered fast truck. But if they did change their course, I think that would be really cool, and you could, do that, and that could be kind of its own thing, because you could take the GMC Canyon, slam that. And then as far as motor, you could either, I mean, honestly, they're really punchy with the top versions of the AT4X and stuff. I mean, it's a lot of power already. Beyond that, I don't know if you can shoehorn a V8 in there or not, but, something cool. I mean, obviously it wasn't even V8 for the old Cyclone. So even if they just turn up the boost on that existing motor, could be fun. So I think those are the top ones I'd love to see. And I did review a Cyclone way back in the day. That was so much fun. TFI says, friend spotted the Refresh 25 Sonata N-Line. It's got quad exhaust like a Pontiac Grand Am GT. Yeah, it does. Yeah, they're really nice looking, actually. My buddy Jared that works at Car Buzz, I think they just did a review of the Sonata N-Line, and I'm hoping to do that Refresh Sonata N-Line review soon. They don't have one in the press fleet just yet, but I'm hoping later this year they do. I hope I don't get it in the middle of winter, because the last time I had a Sonata N-Line, it was the middle of winter and no limited slip diff in that car. And of course, I had it during a week that was actually snowy. It was like you couldn't get around very well without the limited slip diff, because it's just so much power and it loves spinning tires even in the dry, that any kind of slick surface, good luck. That's the thing. That car so desperately needs a limited slip diff. If it had an LSD, I would be jumping out of the window saying how amazing it is. But it's just that's the one thing. It's still a ton of fun, and I actually really recommend it. I think it's a fun alternative to I guess now there's no Camry TRD, so there's really nothing else that really challenges it these days outside of Kia's own K5 GT. But I love Sonata N-Line. It was great before the refresh, and the better styling just sweetens the deal even more now. And Marco says, I'd love to see a review of the Dakota. The Gardner here in the area has a red Dakota, and it's pretty sick. Nice. Yeah, those Dakotas were wild. I know when I worked at a dealership here when I was a teenager, they had a manual, I think it was a 5-speed Dakota V8, and that thing was so beat up that you didn't even have to use the clutch half the time. Like you used the clutch to start, and I always used the clutch just because I didn't want to make it worse. But so many of the guys that just abused the heck out of that thing would just power shift it all the time, like no clutch, just jamming into the second and the third. And it still ran great, didn't miss a beat, and was a good truck for a long time, even though it was really rusted out. But the mechanicals seemed pretty solid. Let me see. Baggington says, missed the Friday videos. Glad you're still here. Absolutely. I'm not going anywhere, but yeah, I wish I could have kept those going, and just didn't work out. Maybe someday find a way to bring them back, but just didn't get the views anymore. And let me see. See, Marco almost got an end line. Nice. In that deep blue purple color. And I almost got it, but the numbers weren't numbering, unfortunately. That's unfortunate. But yeah, they are great. And let me see. I see Cam says that Forrest has definitely set the benchmark for short form content. Yeah, he was really, I'd say, the first on TikTok there with doing that kind of thing, and everyone's kind of just knocked off that in some ways since. I mean, there's a lot of others that do different things and have done other things that make it more creative, but yeah, he's the OG as far as that goes, I think. And let me see. So all the comments we talked about earlier with the rants and the shorts here. Let me see. I don't want to miss any other stuff here in between. And Craig says, I was a little shocked to see a Wednesday Q&A. I haven't spotted anything interesting this week so far, other than my daily thinking it was 105 in southeastern PA yesterday and 103 today. Yeah, it was very hot. It wasn't quite that hot here in Pittsburgh, but it was. We were up. I think I saw the highest I saw was like 95 on the thermometer there. And Lancelot says it was only 85 there, so glad it's not quite as unbearable for you there. And Waitman says, would you pick a 2024 Volkswagen GTI with the manual or a 2025 GTI with the DSG and the large infotainment screen? And how is Volkswagen GTI reliability these days? And thanks for using the new emojis. I think you're actually the first one to use those new emojis I made a little while back there. So as far as that question, I mean, it comes down to how badly you want the manual, honestly. I don't think the screen and the yeah, I mean, I don't think the screen, I'm gonna try it again. I actually, not this week, but the following week, I will actually have the 25 GTI, and that review will be going live in July. I don't know how soon you're planning on making a move there, Wheatman, but if you can wait a month, I'll give you really good impressions and a nice long video there of how it feels. I'm not optimistic. I don't love the way Volkswagen does throttle response. I don't love the way they do their transmission tuning these days. So I'm inclined to say you're better off with the manual. I mean, I personally would go for the manual anyway, just because the engagement is there. It's not Volkswagen manuals. I don't love them, but it's still better than the DSG, unless you plan on paddle shifting everywhere you go or having it in sport mode all the time. That's the only way it drives acceptable, in my opinion, at least based on my last impression was Volkswagen Golf R. That was 2023, I think, and just, I mean, you can watch the video. I just was so annoyed with how that thing just did not respond. It was just set up to hypermile. So I'd probably go 24. Now, I like the infotainment better, actually, not just because it's larger, but I actually right now have a Tiguan, and that new infotainment, the software is a lot better now. And I actually have no issues with the Volkswagen infotainment system anymore with this newest iteration. It's actually completely fine. In the Tiguan, you actually still have an actual volume knob they added too for the new ones here. So you have a volume knob, you still have the steering wheel controls, which are real buttons. And then you also have, the screen being completely fine. So it's tough, but yeah, I'd say even though the 24 has the worst screen, I'd rather have the minor annoyance of the screen, which I don't know if you're like me, but I just usually sit in CarPlay the whole time anyway, so I'm not interacting with the other parts of the screen a whole lot. Auto climate means, I don't usually mess with the little climate toggles or anything. So set it and forget it in a 24, have the better driving experience with the manual. I think that's going to be the better way. You'll probably get a better deal too on that, I'm assuming. So as far as reliability for the GTIs, I don't know about the absolute newest one, and I guess there hasn't been a ton of time. I mean, I guess some of those earliest Mark 8s probably a decent amounts of mileage at this point. So it just the thing you always hear about past Volkswagens is, if there isn't a light on the dash, then it's not a Volkswagen kind of thing. It's all these jokes about, it's just having electrical glitches essentially. I still don't love the idea of keeping any European car beyond its warranty period, unless you get an extended warranty. But, there's just electrical gremlins and quirks. Like my sister leased a Jetta, and like the USB ports would like constantly pop a fuse and they wouldn't work consistently. Just little dumb things like that. Mechanically, I think the car is probably going to be fine. Although you still also have a shorter warranty. That's the other thing that, Volkswagen had a really good warranty, a while back, where it was like 7 years, I think, for powertrain. And they have really cut back, and now it's worse than most others. It's a 4-year, 50,000-mile powertrain. I don't know how long you plan on keeping the car for, but most people do a 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain. And if you're talking about other stuff like, Hyundai and Kia, you're at a 10-year warranty. So it's actually probably the worst warranty. They kind of make up for it because their bumper to bumper is the same 4-year 50,000, and most people do a 3-year 36,000-mile bumper to bumper. So you're a little bit better on that, but you're worse on the powertrain one. So I don't love that. Like, why are you decreasing your powertrain warranty if you have confidence in your product? You should at least keep it the same or make it competitive with everyone else. So that's a little bit of a weird move, especially considering they had a better warranty and then they made it worse. So that gives me a little bit of pause, honestly. And so, yeah, it just comes down to how long you're going to keep it for. But if you are worried about reliability, honestly, I'd probably say skip the GTI and go for one of the other competitors. I know GTI kind of has a really nice sweet spot to it, and I do really like them. They're very charming, and some people do get lucky with them and have no issues. Actually, I do know someone has a Mark 7, maybe it's a 7.5, that I believe has been issue-free for him. I haven't heard about any issues that he's had with it, and he's racking up good miles in it and enjoys it. If, they also, I think, still have some quirks too, but that might even be a possible move because I've heard build quality is better for Mark 7, especially 7.5. So that could be, a move too. I don't know. But anyway, I won't keep rambling, but hopefully it helps you a little bit here. And again, stay tuned for next month if you want to hear my thoughts on the 25 GTI. Let me see here. And along those same lines, the Ashman's also saying, do you think it's worth spending an extra 10 grand to get a Mark 8 Golf R versus the GTI? Do you think a WRX or an STI is better? I say, if you need all-wheel drive, then sure, spend the 10 grand, but no. Otherwise, GTI is close enough, and if you want to have a bunch of power, you can easily tune it. Obviously, again, you're putting the power down better with Golf R. It comes down to what kind of driving you're doing. But if you just want a fun daily driver, absolutely, GTI is plenty. Don't go for the Golf R, especially 10 grand more. It's not 10 grand more fun around town. It's honestly, you hardly even notice the difference, I'd say, unless you are really pushing it. Because, you look at a car, if you ever have driven a car that actually shows you how much horsepower it's making at that current moment, some cars do. Very rarely are you actually using the full amount of horsepower unless you redline everywhere and, full throttle everywhere you go. But if you don't, GTI is going to feel basically the same, in reasonable speeds and reasonable driving. So absolutely stick with GTI. As far as WRX or STI, I don't know. I guess you're talking about the last generation that offered the STI. STI is definitely the more fun of the two, especially for the last gen there because, you had the old EJ, and with the last gen WRX, you didn't have, the EJ, so I'd say STI is better as far as that one goes for sure. It's just more special. STI is just so good still too. WRX is great, but STI is magical. So I think in that case, it's a big enough difference. I would go extra money for STI over WRX, but I wouldn't go for it for the Golf R. Zachary says the Explorer Tremor makes a mediocre trim worse, in his opinion. It does seem like it has a little bit more capability, and they say, according to Ford, a lot of people do actually take their vehicles off-road. So that's why they are wanting to, improve that. We'll see how it goes for them. I think it'll sell well, though, and even if it is a cash grab, it'll work well for them, I think. And I see also, TFI saying the same thing about getting a 7.5 GTI instead. And thanks for the insight there about the water pump. I've heard water pumps. That's a common European thing. I don't know what it is about European vehicles and water pumps. They always seem to have issues. My Mini had an issue with the water pump, and I've heard about that with BMWs and stuff as well. I don't know why that's like an impossible part for the for European brands. Let me see. Stratus says, "Hey Matt, I'll be up in Pennsylvania this weekend for a wedding. Sorry, not a car question, but what are some good food spots that you know of in Philly? I doubt we'll be able to hit up Pittsburgh though. Philly, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Philly. So, and I actually, last time I was in Philly, I mean, I drove through Philly when I was driving home from the beach here this past week. But outside of that, the last time I was actually in Philadelphia spending time there was in 2015 when I actually went to review a GTI, actually, the Mark 7 when those first came out at a dealership. So the only thing I can say is you can go to, I think Geno's is the original like Philly cheesesteak or the best Philly cheesesteak in Philly. So that's definitely, I think if you are a meat eater, get a Philly cheesesteak while you're in Philly. I think that's the only proper thing to eat when you're in Philly. I'm sure there's lots of other fantastic stuff for sure, but if I were there and I was free to eat whatever I wanted, I'd say I'd probably just have a pretty steady diet of cheesesteaks. I do love a good cheesesteak. And let me see here. And I hope you have a good trip and enjoy the wedding as well. Let me see. So, see more discussion about the GTI there. Thanks for that, everyone. And Rishi says, "Hey Matt, awesome to catch you on here. I was wondering what's the smoothest driving modern car that has a good bit of room as well." I mean, so if you are saying smoothest modern car with no other restrictions, I'd probably, I mean, it's probably going to have to be the Rolls-Royce Spectre, because you have complete silence with an electric vehicle and you have a Rolls-Royce. So it's basically perfection there. And it has a good bit of room as well. If you are, even for a back seat, it's like a really nice big back seat. I don't know if that's ridiculous or if that's the kind of how you're, the kind of answer you're after. As far as regular stuff that's obtainable, I think one of the ones that really impresses me is the Honda Accord. I think the Honda Accord, they really did a good job of making it a very nice, smooth ride. It's a very plush interior, lots of soft touch materials. So it all just feels very nice and cushioned in all the ways. Has a great amount of space. You have great powertrains there. And Accord's just great. I think it's really, really well done and probably still my favorite in that segment. I mean, basically everything in that segment's so good these days, but I think Accord would probably be the one I would go with myself if I were spending my own money, although Sonata N-Line would certainly be tempting. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. And TFI says, have I seen the Nissan Armada / Patrol Nismo? I did. I don't know who that car is for. I mean, maybe if you have a GTR and you also need to tow or haul a family or both, I guess it's for those 10 people. I don't know. Otherwise, I don't know who it's for. Anyone who cares about handling, even in that segment. I mean, I guess you could say it's maybe kind of like a budget Escalade V buyer, someone who can't afford an Escalade V but wants something sporty, I guess. But yeah. I mean, I'm all for sporty stuff and I'm all for giving people a choice, and that could be one of those fun, quirky cars that we're laughing about in 10 years. Remember the, Nismo version of the Armada? So I'm not going to, frown upon it, but it's an odd choice in my opinion. I mean, apparently in the Middle East, they've done a Patrol Nismo before for the last generation, and it was, I think, pretty popular because they're doing another one. So, I think there's maybe a solid business case there, and they've ran the numbers and thought it was worth bringing to the States. So yeah, and also I just realized we're an hour and 13 minutes in. This was supposed to only be an hour, but I just lost track of time here. So let me see. I'm going to try and get caught up here as quickly as I can. And if anyone does have any other questions here before the end, I'm going to try and do the last member ones here. And otherwise, definitely feel free to send me a message or wait till Sunday. And, that's the longer one there with the 2 hour. But I'm going to try and keep this to an actual hour because I think people have kind of enjoyed the more palatable live stream here for the Wednesday ones. I don't want to go full 2 hours here. So let me see. So I think we're not too far behind here because we were talking about all the Isuzu stuff here. So maybe we're pretty well caught up. So if anyone has any other questions, let me see. I see Two Track Jack says his spot of the week so far was a 99 or 2000 Cavalier Z24 convertible, not all rotted out. That's impressive. Let me see. And sorry, I missed the other supers here that came in. So that, yeah, definitely. Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, still going to start the second channel for car news. No, that was a brief idea I thought of doing. But I think I kind of came to realize, or at least I came to the idea that the car news thing was probably beyond saving. Just because you had, the second Doug started doing his podcast, which also had car news in it, that sliced my views by like 25%, like almost immediately. There's just people that, news just doesn't age well. You got to be on top of it. You have to be constantly, every day doing stuff. And like Kirk Rifles does these like daily videos about news things, and there's others that do, stuff as well. So I think, yeah, it's just I don't have the time to be jumping on every news story the second it breaks and jumping in front of the camera, hopping on the mic and doing some quick little video. Yeah, I don't. Unfortunately, I just have too much other stuff with the reviews to keep up with and everything else. I can't keep up. I don't know how Kirk does it, honestly, but I can't do it. So doing a second channel would certainly help the algorithm thing, but I still would be up against the same competition, even if, the algorithm was showing my video to the right people. I still just don't think it would have done enough. And I think, I lost a bunch of people, with the tariff talk, who just didn't like hearing, my take on that and me talking about that. And, that kind of was another thing that didn't help for sure. And a lot of people just told me, though, like so many people said, I love these weekly updates, but I'm not interested in cars anymore because everything's going electrified, everything's too expensive. And that's why all these car channels have declined. You look at, it's not just me, it's a lot of them, the majority of them have declined or at least flatlined in views. And it's because there's just less people interested and excited about cars these days. So it was just, I'm getting a smaller and smaller piece of the pie. It's just less people actually watching in the first place. And then the algorithm makes changes to make it harder. And then there's new competitors that make it harder. And it's just like it gets whittled down littler and littler and littler before there's nothing left. And that's kind of why I kind of reached the breaking point there with the updates. And I don't think a new second channel would save that. So yeah, it's unfortunate. And again, if some opportunity comes up to do it again in the future, or if there's some kind of partnership of working with another channel or hopping on someone else's podcast, or, if some bigger conglomerate wants to, finance a, news show for cars or something. I'm all for any of those kinds of ideas. I'd love to get back into it. It's just the way I was doing it was not working. And I don't have any time to do it in, the other bite-sized ways or, any bigger production or anything like that. But yeah, thanks so much again, Jordan, for the super chat. And Linda says, totally agree with the two rants. Make me appreciate my Mustang. Yeah, Ford did a really good job with the S550s with the button quality and everything being just so nice. I see also Jeff saying, heads up, the mic's popping and cutting a little bit. I apologize for that. Not sure. Sometimes it does that. And I'm using my iPhone mic this time. So it's not my mic that had given me issues in the past. So, but sorry about that. That's obviously not an ideal viewing experience. But let me see here. So yeah, I'm going to try and just make sure I don't want to miss any of the other member questions here. So I see more Dakota discussion here. Love to see it. And yeah, Truck and Car Guy agrees about the 86 Twins being probably the cheapest coupes there. Let me see here. I see Zachary says Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow recently bought a tumbler for $2.99 million. Wow. So yeah, talking about the tumblers earlier, that's crazy. It went for that much. I hope that was a screen used one. because I saw there was one on eBay for this was a year or two ago, but it was like a really well done replica, like one that I would still own if I had the money. And I think it was like 350 grand or 400 grand or something like that. So if it's 3 million bucks, it better be one of the actual movie ones. I'm assuming it was, because there were a few. I know Christopher Nolan has one. I think maybe Chris Corbold, the stunt coordinator for the movies, I think maybe he has one. I'm not totally sure. I think Christian Bale might. I don't know, but I know a few of them went to like some of the Warner Brothers executives and stuff. I can't remember how many survived, but I don't know. I think there's less than a dozen real ones out there now, but 3 million sounds about right for a real one, I'd say. And I would, if I had hundreds of millions, I would absolutely drop that in a heartbeat too. That's awesome. You bought one. Cincinnati, huh? Man, I got to start driving through Cincinnati more often because I would lose my mind if I saw a tumbler on the street. That would get me back to like the giddy, like BRZ driving Super X fan days. If I saw a tumbler rolling around in the street again. Let me see. So I think, yeah, Vishal saying got a drink for the GR Corolla mention there. Let me see. Chad says, what are your thoughts on more rugged or sporty looking vans? They used to have legit 4x4s back in the day. I think those are two huge opportunities. I mean, I know vans still aren't super hot, but it sounds like vans may be starting to come back with popularity growing a little bit. And I absolutely think, yeah, if there's more and more people excited about vans, totally do sporty and rugged versions. I think that'd be awesome. Michelle says he saw one of those black bras on the front of a Sienna recently. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I can't believe companies even make those anymore. Let me see. Charting Car Guy says one of his coworkers has a Model 3 that just got banged up. That's crazy. Some people really do go through cars hard, though, with just every panel being dented. It's nuts. Luke says the new Camry is priced well. It is actually, talking earlier, yeah, about Toyota having a Toyota tax sometimes. You're right, though. The Camry is a phenomenal value for sure. That's one of the cases where you're not paying a Toyota tax. Marco says, you mean to tell us you've been sitting on a possible review of a Lexus freaking LFA? Bro, we need that review. I know, it's just getting the Quebec. I don't even know if the guy has it anymore because, I mean, I think he probably offered that to me like in 2018 or something. So I don't know if it's actually still on the table. I haven't talked to the guy in years, but yeah, that's one I've really wanted to make that happen, especially even GT3 Touring. I would desperately love to review one of those. But yeah, I know. I apologize. I never made that happen yet. Maybe someday. Hopefully they held on to it because, I mean, that car has skyrocketed in value. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe someday it'll happen still. Triton Car Guy says he sees a lot of single cab trucks that are lowered in Arizona. That must be an Arizona thing because I feel like I never see lowered trucks around here at all. Everyone's got them lifted up, which is unfortunate. And let me see. Let me see. So Immutable Dude says cheap lowering kit is to put smaller tires on it. I've seen a full-size truck with passenger tires. Wow, that's crazy. I have never seen that before. He says my 03 Jetta 1.8 T 5-speed went through so many brake lights. Always had a 5-pack in the glove box. That's nuts. Otherwise, it was the most reliable car I owned. 50 to 220,000 without problems. That's awesome. And I know also like the diesel Volkswagens were phenomenal. I think my uncle, I think he actually just gifted his he had like an 03 Jetta too that he gifted to his daughter. But that thing, I mean, he's just driven the wheels off that thing. I don't know how many, 300,000 miles or something, and it's still going great. Yeah, so those old ones definitely can go the distance, especially if you get the right motor and you get lucky with maintenance and all that. And I see Vishal says, about Volkswagen cutting back the warranty there. Yeah, they see the 6 year 72,000. Yeah, that's the one that I was thinking of, which was bumper to bumper too, which is phenomenal. It's crazy. I see Jeff's offering help as far as the Philly recommendations. I appreciate that, Jeff. Let me see. Immutable Dude says, BMW equals Mini. That's why they both have the water pump issues. True. All right, let me see here. Apologies. we're just over time. I see there's a few other questions that are outstanding. Definitely send me a message. All the links in the description for contact info, or stop by the Sunday live stream where we have a little bit more time and ask there. But yeah, I see everyone's just about signing off here. And Rishi, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships here right at the end. I really appreciate that as well. Looks like some new names as well as some familiar ones as well. So thank you so much for the generosity, Rishi. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll end on that here. So I see Vishal says also the 2.5 liter 5-cylinder is very reliable too. My uncle had a 2010 and put over 150,000 miles on it without much issue. That's great. And that motor is really cool because that was half of the Lamborghini V10 basically. And that's why it sounds so good too. I always thought that was such a cool idea. And so, yeah, that's good to hear that they've held up well. And I mean, honestly, even the Lambo V10, that motor, I mean, I've seen those with well over 100,000 miles doing great. So really well done for those motors. But yeah, so anyway, thank you all so much for stopping by here for this midweek chat. It's really fun. We've had some great conversations tonight, and hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Stay tuned for the one on Sunday. Stay tuned for some more videos. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning here earlier, those shorts of me ranting. For those of you who do watch shorts, hopefully that does well, and you guys enjoy those little clips too. If you don't, especially if you don't want to watch the whole 30-minute Polestar review, that'll give you the fun little highlights there of the rants. But anyway, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your week. Stay cool, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.